Hi, and welcome back to Terminology Tuesday. Last week, Valerie went over two terms we used to describe different studies when we talk about the study of plants. She went over botany and taxonomy. And this week, we're going to go over two other terms, agriculture and horticulture. So to begin, I just want to mention that these four terms, botany, taxonomy, horticulture, and agriculture, all of these sciences and practices, they don't exist in separate silos. They overlap and intermingle quite a bit. So it can be difficult to just, clearly define them as separate from each other. But overall, we'll start off with agriculture, and that is the science and the practice of cultivating the soil to grow food crops and to rear animals, livestock, for food and also for their resources like wool, etc. Notably, the term agriculture implies the cultivation of the soil, the changing of the structure of the soil in order to do those things. So it usually entails the use of large mechanisms like plows and tractors in order to do that. And horticulture is different in that it is the cultivation and the science of growing plants, usually sometimes for the production of food, but also for ornamental uses as well, and often not on the large scale that agriculture is often thought of as doing. So a horticulturalist can be growing, cultivating, hybridizing, selecting seed, selecting characteristics or traits within plants in order to achieve a specific trait that they would like to see. And the science of growing and learning how to grow plants successfully and propagate them. So gardening, selecting plants to plant and grow in your yard and growing them, is a less scientific form of horticulture that we practice in our yards. And horticulture is actually a branch of agriculture because it does also involve growing and learning about food crops and how to grow them. So both of these terms are describing practices that humans use in order to make the most of the plants around them, to utilize them for food, for sources of materials, and also for ornamental aesthetic pleasure. But there are also practices that kind of fall in between these two descriptions, these two terms. For instance, indigenous people for thousands and thousands of years have done practices that alter their ecosystems and their natural areas in order to promote species, plants that they want to see grow, and just to change it in ways that are beneficial to them, using prescribed fire, selecting seed from individual plants that have larger fruit or better nuts, and planting seed in natural areas. So that doesn't really fit into agriculture, and it doesn't exactly fit into horticulture either. But it is within those realms, right? So just when we're talking about all of these different terms in any sort of biological sciences, we have to keep in mind that these are definitions that are somewhat malleable and hard to have a hard definition and define, very distinctly, because there's just so many assets and facets of these topics. So that's it for today. Thanks again for joining me for Terminology Tuesday, and I'll see you guys again next week.